This video demonstrates how to evaluate priority rules. We'll look at the four most common priority rules, how these priority rules dictate job sequence, and then how we evaluate those. We actually use four measurements to evaluate these different priority rules, and we'll show you how to set this up. So I'm using data from 15.14 at the end of chapter 15. What they give us is we have these five jobs, job A, B, C, D, and E. They tell us the date they were received. Here we're just numbering the days from the very first day of the year all the way throughout the year. So this is day 110, 120, 122, 125, 130. They show how many days it will take to actually complete this job. So job A would be 20 days, job B would be 30 days, and so on. And we've given the client a due date, so we expect to be done with this in day 180. And today's date is 130. Now this should make sense because these priority rules are based on basically having all the information. And so you'll notice that the last job we received, E, was on day 130, and so today is 130, and we are now going to go ahead and schedule these jobs. So the four priority rules we look at are abbreviated as FCFS, EDD, SPT, and LPT. Now these are listed on your formula sheet. You'll see that the formula sheet for exam 4 is very brief, and there's not a whole lot of information on there. In fact, from here down, these would be chapter 17. And so there are no formulas for chapter 13, no formulas for chapter 14, other than the MRP template will be provided, a blank one on the formula sheet so that you can replicate that in Excel when you're taking the exam. But the only formulas given here in regards to chapter 15 are what these abbreviations stand for, these four priority rules, and then the four measurements that we use. And then we'll talk about critical ratio in a later video. But FCFS is first come, first serve, so we simply do them in the order we receive them. Shortest processing time, we sort of do the easy task first and then put off the harder task until later, or we concentrate on the earliest due date. And last one, we tackle the harder jobs first and save the easy jobs till later. And so they ask us to evaluate that. So what I did here is I just made a copy of our data. Now, I don't need to change anything here because they're in order from first come, first serve. So job A was the first job we received, and job B the second and the third, and so on. So this list is already sorted appropriately. Now there's a couple things we need to calculate to do these things. So we are going to evaluate this process based on utilization, jobs in system, completion time, and average lateness. Some of the terms your textbook uses is average tardiness, that's lateness. Average flow time has to do with the completion time. Average number of jobs in the system, pretty straightforward. And it may not call for utilization, but utilization is another important measurement that you should always do. So we need to calculate a couple things. Now these formulas for utilization, jobs in system, and completion time, and average lateness or tardiness, or average flow, are here listed. But we need to know the process time and the flow time. The process time is based on the total production time. So if we were just to do these in order 20, then 30, 10, 16, 18, what would be that total time? So let's put a sum here, and this will be the case for all of the sequencing because no matter what priority rule we use, it's just a sum total of that. So down here, when we look at earliest due date, EDD, this will still be the same even though we've rearranged them differently. Now flow time is going to be a little bit different. Flow time is a cumulative effect based on the sequencing. And so we're going to actually start off, so it will be 20 days to do this in. The next one actually is the 20 days plus the 30 days. So what we're really saying in flow time is that it will take us 50 days from today to complete B. And then, of course, we're going to then add this to that. So to do C, because you have to do A first, and then you can do B, and then you can do C. And so the flow time on C is actually 60 days because we have to do 20, and then the 30, and then the 10. So we will be done in 60 days from now because we're not working on these simultaneously. We have to work on A, then B, and then C. So we can keep copying this down, and we will need to know then the cumulative effect of that. So this should make sense. This should match up because we had to do this job, then this job, then this job, then this job, and this job. So if we take the 76 days that we're now the cumulative effect plus the 18, then we're at to 94. But we need to know the sum total of this. And this flow will be affected by the sequencing based on the priority rule we use. In this case, the sum total is 300. Now we can do some other calculations that we will need to know later. But let's go ahead and do some of these formulas here. So we're going to do utilization. Utilization is process time divided by flow time. So process time is this divided by flow time, this. So a perfect is 100%, 0.31, 31% utilization. So we could convert this into a percentage. But it's kind of interesting. The higher, the better. The more we're utilizing our system, the better off we are. So 31%. So first come, first serve really doesn't have a very good utilization. You'll see some of the priority rules may have higher utilizations, but in many cases, most people consider this to be the fairest because it's in the order you received your job. Jobs in the system, how many jobs are we working at, or basically how fast are things stacking up compared to how we're doing them. And so we can take a look at that, and it's just kind of the opposite. So flow time divided by process time, so the opposite of that. So here's flow time divided by process time. And the jobs in the system are basically 3.2 jobs in the system at one time. Once again, the higher, well, there's a debate on this one. Sometimes it's seen as the lower the better because that you're getting them done, the job's done and out. This can be interpreted a couple different ways. Utilization, clearly the higher the utilization, the better. Jobs in system, usually we want lower because that means that we're getting things done and completed. Completion time is actually average flow. So here's the formula for that. It's just basically the flow time, the total fuel time divided by the number of jobs. That is the completion time. So we could take this and we'll divide it by 5 because we have 5 jobs. That will give us this. But this is also the average flow time. So if we were to do just an average, use the function average and do the average of these, you'd find out it'd give us the same number. So two different ways to calculate the average flow time or the completion time. So it's on average, it's taking us about 60 days to complete our jobs. Some are done faster, but it's the average over all of the jobs in the system. Average lateness, now here's where we need to complete a couple of numbers. So we're going to do the completion. And the completion is based on the fact that, we're going to look at this flow time here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our starting point, 130, and we're going to add to that then our flow time. So it will be done at day 150. So we start at day 130, and it takes us 20 days to complete that. That will be then our completion time. Now I'm going to absolute this first one because today's starting date won't change here. And then I can copy down the formula. So think about that. So 150 now, if I copy this down, you'll see that it's doing it correctly based on flow time. We're going to copy this down. This should make sense because basically, you know, today's 130, but I have to do A before I can do B. And so that is 20 plus the 30 days to do B. So that means this will be due at 180. Now here's where we'll do late. And what I do here is I simply take the completion time and I subtract it from the due date here. And you'll see that if it's a negative number, we basically means it's not late. It's done plenty early. And so we only need to look at the two dates. So on C, we're late 15 days because we'll finish it on day 190 and it was due 175. And on E, it was due on 210 and we did it on day 224. So average lateness here is those 2 days. So that's 29, 15 plus the 14, the amount, and it's divided by 5 jobs. And so we end up with 5.8 is our average number of days late in this regard, 5.8. The other way to calculate this, and maybe more accurately, is maybe to zero out these from this standpoint, and then simply do like what we did, an average, and then average these, and that one would give you the same answer. So either way, my way may be a little easier to calculate these things so that it's done. Now let's do earliest due date. Now what I did is I just made a copy of the list up here, but instead of looking in order from the first come first serve, I sorted it based on the earliest due date. So 175 job C is the earliest due date and job D is the latest due date. And so once again, we will need to know our process time, but that won't change. We could have kept using the same one. Here we're going to end up with a little bit different flow time because once again of our sequencing of jobs. Completion also will be affected because of you know, the order we're going in, and then we'll also calculate lateness here. So let's go through and do flow. Remember, we'll start with our starting point. So we start at 10, and then once we're done with that, we can do A. And so this is this amount plus then the new job. And now we will copy that down, and we will then calculate our flow time on this one. So you see our flow time went down a little bit less because we're actually focusing on getting those things that were due earlier. And so you'll see that it'll actually come in together in regards to our completion again. So once again, today's date, let's go ahead and oops, today's date plus a flow. We're going to run out of time here on the video, so I'm going to come back and pick this up in the second video. We'll go as far as I can, and then there will be a continuation of this where I'll do shortest processing time and longest processing time. So let's go back and absolute the starting date here like we've done. And now we should be able to copy this down, and that will probably be the last thing I can do before we run out of time here on this videotape. So pick up on the second one and we'll complete this, this homework problem.